Somewhere in your house, there may be a breaker that used to trip and now does not. Nothing on that circuit was repaired. The wiring behind the wall is the same wiring. Whatever was drawing too much current still draws it, or whatever fault existed is still sitting there. Somebody fitted a larger breaker, the tripping stopped, and the problem went quiet. That swap is the most common thing homeowners get wrong about an electrical panel, and it goes wrong in a way that feels like a repair. The logic behind it is easy to follow. A breaker that keeps tripping looks like the failing part because it is the part producing the symptom. So it gets blamed, and fitting one that holds looks like the obvious answer. But of everything attached to a circuit that keeps tripping, the breaker is the only component currently doing its job. The failure it keeps interrupting belongs to something else, which means the number stamped on that handle is not a limit you get to raise when it becomes inconvenient. That number measures something specific, and once you know what, the correct repair becomes obvious and the tempting one stops being tempting. Start with the wire, because the wire is what all of this is written around. Every conductor has an ampacity, that is, the maximum current it can carry continuously without its insulation degrading. Ampacity belongs to the wire, set by its size, its insulation type, how many conductors are bundled with it, and how warm it gets. It has nothing whatsoever to do with the appliance at the far end. Article 240 of the National Electrical Code requires that conductors be protected against overcurrent in accordance with their ampacity. The overcurrent device, meaning your breaker, has to be rated equal to or less than what the wire can carry. The code is unusually blunt about why. Overcurrent protection exists to open the circuit before the current reaches a value that would cause a dangerous temperature in the conductor or in the conductor's insulation. Notice the order that happens in. Somebody chose a wire size for that run when the house was built, and then chose a breaker to suit the wire. The breaker was selected last, and it was selected downward to a rating the copper could survive. So the number stamped on that handle is not a statement about your dryer or your space heater. It is a statement about copper. 15 amps means somebody determined that the wire behind your wall carries 15 amps indefinitely without cooking itself. We will get to why breakers trip in a moment, but I should introduce myself first. I'm Wade. Houses produce a lot of alarming behavior, and a good share of it turns out to be a safety device doing exactly what it was installed to do. Telling those two apart is worth some effort because the repair you choose for a fault is usually the opposite of the repair you choose for a warning. That's what this channel is for. What's actually wrong, what it actually means, and roughly what it actually costs. A breaker opens when current exceeds its rating, and there are 3 ordinary reasons that happens. The first is overload. More things are running on that circuit than the wiring was sized for, and the total draw exceeds the rating. The current went exactly where it was supposed to go, there was simply too much of it. This is the most common cause and the least dramatic one, and it is usually solved by moving something onto a different circuit. Nothing is broken in that case, and nothing needs replacing. The circuit is being asked for more than it was designed around, which happens constantly in houses wired back when a kitchen meant a refrigerator and a toaster. The second is a short circuit. A hot conductor contacts a neutral conductor somewhere, and current takes a path with almost no resistance in it. The current that flows is enormous, and the trip is close to instantaneous. Damaged insulation causes this. So do loose terminations, failed appliance cords, and faults inside the appliance itself. A short circuit is the kind of thing you want found rather than lived with. The third is a ground fault. A hot conductor contacts something grounded, which might be a metal box, a ground conductor, or a wet surface, and current flows to ground. Moisture is a frequent contributor, which is why these turn up in basements, garages, kitchens, and outdoors more than anywhere else. Rodent damage shows up here too, and so does a nail or a screw driven through a cable during work somebody did years ago. There is one distinction here that is worth carrying around, and it costs you nothing to observe. A breaker that trips the instant it is reset, with nothing switched on, points toward a short or a ground fault. A breaker that resets and holds, then trips later once things are running, points toward overload. That does not tell you where the problem is, it tells an electrician which half of the search to start with, and it is a useful thing to be able to say on the phone. Now put those two facts together, because that is what this video is about. The breaker rating is determined by the wire. The wire is the thing being protected. So a larger breaker adds no capacity to that circuit at all. The copper in the wall does not change. The only thing that changes is the current level at which the circuit is allowed to keep running. The code puts hard ceilings on this for the small wire that residential branch circuits are built from, and these are limits rather than suggestions. 14-gauge copper gets 15 amps maximum. 12-gauge copper gets 20 amps maximum. 10-gauge copper gets 30 amps maximum. Those numbers have not moved across code editions in decades. Put a 20-amp breaker on 14-gauge wire and the circuit will now run at 20 amps without interruption. The wire heats, its insulation ages faster than it should, becomes brittle, and eventually stops doing its job, usually at the hottest point in the run, which is somewhere you cannot see. The tripping stops. The hazard does not. It stops announcing itself. Look at what actually changed. Before the swap, that circuit had an overload or a fault on it and a device that interrupted the current when it climbed. After the swap, the circuit still has the overload or the fault, and the device no longer interrupts anything at the level that matters. Nothing was repaired. One symptom was silenced. Here is the one piece of data I want in this video, and then I will go back to explaining. The United States Fire Administration reports around 24,000 residential building electrical fires a year in this country, causing roughly 310 deaths. In that same data, the item most often ignited first is electrical wire and cable insulation, close to a third of the time. Those fires also spread further than other house fires because they start inside walls and nobody sees them early. Nobody can give you odds for your particular house. What is true is that the protection is gone and the wire has nothing else. None of that means you are stuck with a circuit that keeps tripping. If the circuit is genuinely undersized for what you are asking of it, then upgrading it is legitimate and normal work. An electrician pulls heavier conductor, 12-gauge instead of 14, 10-gauge instead of 12, and fits a correspondingly larger breaker. Receptacles, boxes, and terminations get checked for the new rating at the same time. That is a real capacity increase because the wire changed first and the breaker followed it. The cheaper answer is often redistribution. Older houses commonly have one circuit carrying a whole floor, and a lot of chronic tripping resolves by moving a heavy load, usually a space heater, a window air conditioner, a microwave, or a freezer, onto a circuit with room on it. Dedicated circuits for the big appliances exist for this reason. The distinction that matters runs through all of it. Adding capacity means changing the wire and then matching the breaker to it. Removing protection means changing only the breaker and leaving the wire where it is. The second one looks like the first from outside the panel, costs a fraction as much, and takes a few minutes. If a tripping breaker turns out to be a short or a ground fault rather than an overload, then no amount of capacity fixes it. There is a fault in the circuit and it needs finding. Now, an electrician may tell you the code does permit rounding up, and they are not wrong. There is a provision allowing the next standard device rating above the conductor's ampacity in certain situations, which exists because ampacity figures rarely land exactly on a standard breaker size. It does not apply here, and the wording is specific. That allowance excludes conductors that are part of a branch circuit supplying more than one receptacle for cord and plug-connected portable loads. A household receptacle circuit is exactly that, on top of which the small conductor limits in 240.4D stand on their own, whatever the rest of the calculation says. Which edition of the code applies to your house is decided by your local authority, and jurisdictions run anywhere from a couple of cycles behind to current. The 15, 20, and 30 amp ceilings are the same in all of them. While we are here, there are three things a breaker is not, and all three get assumed. It is not shock protection. The current that stops a human heart is dramatically smaller than the current needed to trip a 15-amp breaker. A person can be electrocuted on a circuit whose breaker never trips. Ground fault interrupters exist for that specific job, which is why code requires them at receptacles near water, in kitchens, bathrooms, basements, garages, and outdoors. It is not appliance protection. Breakers protect the fixed wiring in the walls, the thinner conductors inside a lamp cord or an extension lead, and the components inside the appliance are not what that rating was calculated for. This is why a cord can char, or a plug can scorch the face of a receptacle while the breaker never trips once all evening. The current involved never came anywhere near 15 amps, and an absence of tripping is not proof that anything is fine. Loose connections, corroded terminations, and insulation degrading behind a wall can all get worse for years without ever drawing enough current to trip anything at all. A quiet panel is not evidence. It is just a quiet panel. The awkward part of this one is that you cannot check it yourself. Wire gauge is not visible without pulling the cover off the panel, and that is not homeowner work. Do not do it. The amperage is printed on the handle, and that number on its own tells you nothing, because the question is always what the wire behind it can carry. So this ends with a question rather than a look. When an electrician is at your panel for any reason, you put it to them before anyone touches anything. Has every breaker in this panel been confirmed as sized to the wire it protects? And did you find anything oversized? A good answer names circuits and gauges, and if something is oversized, it says so plainly and tells you what correcting it involves. A vague answer or an offer to simply fit a bigger breaker so it stops tripping tells you plenty about who you have hired. Tell me in the comments which breaker in your house is the one that trips and what is on that circuit. Kitchen, bedroom, garage, the outlet the space heater is plugged into. I read them, and the patterns across an old housing stock are informative. If this changed what you were about to ask an electrician for, that is worth a like. Subscribe if you want more of these.